Well, thanks for joining us this morning. What is the one thing that you would rather pay for and never have to use than not pay for it and wish you had it? I think that's insurance.
Absolutely.
We are with Jody Entrekin of the Entrekin Insurance Agency. Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic. So, Jody, tell us what got you into this business.
You know, honestly, Chet, I really kind of fell into it. You know, it was out of need myself. You know, I was a police officer at the time, and I cut my teeth into the insurance business doing investigations, investigative work for insurance companies. And then when I had a loss and suffered myself, insurance didn't work the way that I wanted it to, or thought that it should have, so I said, hey, I can become an insurance adjuster and make a difference. And it didn't take too long as an insurance adjuster for me to realize and understand the true power is not as the adjuster, it's the actual agent who writes the policy. So as an adjuster, just like as a police officer, as a police officer, you have to abide by whatever the laws are and enforce them. You have to do the exact same thing as an insurance adjuster. Whatever's enforced is enforced. I can do nothing but adjust or process the claim as the policy is written. So I can't really help you at that point in time. The only person who can was the agent who wrote that policy initially. That's what really got me into the sales side of the business.
And so we've talked a few times. You were on Expert Alert as well every month. What I get from you is that you're kind of a Jedi customizing these policies to fit exactly your client's situation, what they need to cover, what's most important to them.
Yes. So insurance, everyone thinks is a license to steal, like you and I have discussed before. It's not. So here at Entrekin Insurance, what I pride myself on and my agency on is the education side. So yes, kind of like the Jedi Master. We want to educate you. We want to teach you. We want you to know what these numbers mean and how it works. So that's our job, is to educate you, not to sell you anything. I don't want someone to look at me and say, hey, he's a good salesman, because I'm not. Probably one of the worst salesmen that you're ever going to meet, truth be told. Sure. My job is to educate my clientele. Once I educate them, it's up to them to make an informed decision. I'm just a guy that they can go to and get educated from and purchase the product that they're looking for.
What kinds of insurance do you offer?
There's nothing that we can't do. We can do personal lines, which most people don't understand that, but that's going to be your homeowners, auto insurance, boat insurance, anything that you would need personally. We can also do commercial lines. So business insurance, general liability, commercial property, bonds, things of that nature. Event policies, so springtime's coming up, so there's still going to be parades out there, St. Patrick's Day, Mardi Gras parades, events. You go to the community centers, they're going to make you have insurance for birthday parties, big meetings, anything of that nature, we do those as well. Even if you need health insurance, life insurance, we can do all of that. You name the policy, we can pretty much write it. Bonds, you need a bond for a title bond or performance bond, for a contractor. We do all that.
Do you have preferred brands that you work with, or do you work with all of them?
There's a ton of them. I'm not going to say any preferred.
Sure.
There's just a bunch of them. It's kind of like, if you want soda, what kind of soda do you want? You want Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, my favorite, or Barks Root Beer. There's a ton of them down the aisle. Which one is preferred by you?
So I guess a better question then would be is if you have, say you have an auto policy and you bought your policy online and you want to see if you're covered in the event something outrageous happens, do you have abilities to update that policy and put it through your agency?
Yes and no. To answer that question, number one, I do not advise, and I cannot stress that enough, do not advise purchasing an auto policy online. Go to a licensed agent. Let them help you do that. There are too many nuances to each and every policy. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the proper coverage and then something happens, you're the one that's going to suffer, all to save $5, $10. More often than not, I can find you something cheaper than you found it yourself online, if we're truly comparing apples to apples. Because that's where you don't see it. So most people, whenever you do it online, as an example, you're looking at the original liability. but then you're not looking at the uninsured side as an example. So if you get higher limit coverage on liability, chances are your uninsured is not the same, which is what happens most common on,
Sure.
Online purchases. And again, it comes down to clarity. You want to see it all, and you don't see it when it's online. And if you don't understand, and it's not to be offensive towards anybody, this is what I do. I don't go to my doctor and say, hey, this is this. I don't understand it. I let him, tell me, because that's what they do.
So if when it's coming time to renew, folks can just give you a call, come in, have a conversation about what it is they need, what assets they're trying to protect, and it just goes from there.
Absolutely.
So what about, you're from here.
Yes, sir.
You live in this community, you serve this community. You were telling me before we were on camera that your goal was to have your own agency, have your own building. You've got that. So you're here for the long haul.
Absolutely. Here to make a difference.
Absolutely. And what does that mean to you, making a difference?
One person at a time. That's it. So if I can change someone's mindset, and when insurance is needed, it's never a good time, right? But when it's needed, if it works the way that it's supposed to, that's the difference that I can make. For someone to look back and say, I'm glad I had this. Thanks to Entrekin Insurance, my home is repaired the way it's supposed to. My business didn't close, because of this claim. Or my wife or my child is alive because we had this. That's the difference there.
I know this is going to be tough because we like to talk. We got about a minute left. We got about 45 seconds left. Tell me one of the most common myths about insurance that you dispel on a regular basis.
It covers everything. That's the most common thing. Oh, I have full coverage. It covers everything. No, it does not. It's not even close. Those numbers are vital. And if you don't understand what those numbers mean, give us a call.
Yeah.
I'll explain them to you.
At any time.
At any time.
Like any time in the course of your policy, like you can just call and check those numbers.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So look, if it's time to get new insurance, or if you think you may not be completely covered and you want to make sure that you have all your bases covered, you see that number there at the bottom of your screen. Jody has a team of folks here that are ready to answer your questions and get you covered. The last thing you want to do is to think that you have your bases covered and then you need insurance and you don't have your bases covered. So you want to get on that phone number right there, give them a call, start asking those questions, because every situation is different based on every single person. So give him a call and he'll get that taken care of for you. Jody, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.